welcome JJ Trinidad from Skycam to coming on and talking with us.
Thank you for having me.
And just to kind of get things going, can you tell us a little bit about what you do with Skycam and what Skycam is all about?
Yeah, sure. What we do is mainly aerial cinematography, aerial drone lighting, FPV, cinematic footage, aerial photography. We also build custom claws where we can drop packages and do stuff with some of our engineering where we have different requests from different clients for whatever reason they want to drop a package or deliver a package or use it in a commercial or use a drone as a prop in a commercial or anything with this technology is what we offer to our clients. And anything from small drones to medium-sized drones to bigger drones with gimbals and cinema cameras and different lenses, and pretty much cover all the bases of what this technology can offer to the film and TV industry.
Right. Yeah, I saw. That's pretty well rounded. I saw some of the clients you work with and some of the content you created. We were talking earlier about the Olivia Rodrigo driver's license film, and one of the things I saw that you did with that is not only you're shooting, but you're also providing the lighting as well, and the different kind. You had a different lighting to it. Is that something you see? More and more, like a lot of filmmakers and directors want to use drones for night shots and stuff where you have to bring in lights and they don't want to set up their rigs. They'd rather have it on a drone.
Yeah, actually we've done a lot of, lighting effects for different, projects. And it's gotten more popular now throughout the years. A lot of people didn't know about it. And a lot of people still don't know about it. A lot of people don't offer it either. There's only a handful of people that can offer it. And most of the people that I've seen that do offer it, the lighting rigs aren't that bright. They're using, 4 LEDs at 60,000 lumens versus we're using 10 or 10 LEDs at 130,000 lumens. So it's very bright. And I think that's, it's a heavier rig. The batteries for it, you can only get 10 minutes on the light. However, the drone can fly the light for a longer time, for about maybe 25 minutes, maybe more. I don't know. We've never done that, but we always have to change the light every 10 minutes because the light's so strong.
Yeah. That again, going back to the license, the video, it looked like the night light from the LAPD helicopters flying over, gave that brightness effect, the midnight sun kind of look. So
yeah, there's so many cool lighting effects you can do with these things. You can create really cool moving shadows from the light, especially if you're going over like a forest or any sort of trees. Anything that has structural shadows that can produce from the light. You can create anything from what you have, and you can angle the light in any direction. We can filter the light so it has different colors. So there's a lot you can do with these things. So I feel like the brighter the light is, you have more options to, illuminate things that'll read well. You can diffuse the light. But yeah, I mean, it's getting pretty popular. And, we just did another video recently with Big Sean and Post Malone where we use the light. So that's a new project that was just released recently. So, I'll post that pretty soon. But yeah, we have a lot of projects that we're working on, and a lot of them have been released. It's kind of hard for me to keep up with all the new releases that we've been working on and create blogs, because we're also flying all the time, going out testing new gear. This technology is always changing, so there's always new gear coming out.
And that's something I was gonna, that leads to another question they had. What are some challenges that you face as far as a drone cinematographer, a drone photographer? What do you, is it technology? Is it changing? Is it customer demand? What are some challenges that you run into on a regular basis, and how do you get past that?
A lot of the challenges are, new projects that require some sort of, type of insurance that they want, or some type of waiver that they'll need, flying over a crowd or flying at night. I mean, we've got those covered, but challenges are probably like new technologies that you would have to set up, or something that's custom built that you would have to set up, and go into these programs and set them up through your computer. So that's a whole nother sort of aspect of what we do is troubleshooting and setting it up, getting familiar with these operating systems, or these like Betaflight, for instance, or Mission Planner. All these different programs that can fly a drone autonomously. And we also work on fixed wings. I'm a very big fan of fixed wings, and I was flying RC airplanes, way before this technology came out. So, when the technology came out, I was already strapping cameras on these planes, and you can see the propeller, in the video, and, the footage was real shaky. So that's pretty much, how, how I got started. And I still work on fixed wing planes till now. We're working on the autonomous functions on them, because they're a lot different than multi-rotors. Fixed wings are, most of them are, you fly manual. A lot of people don't know how to fly. As far as, drones in general, or fixed wings, especially the ones that fly in manual mode, there's a lot of consumer drone operators out there who just let the drone fly on its own, and it does 90% of the flying. So, but you really need someone skilled to know, how to maneuver these things and understand what problems you're having to, to have a successful operation, because you can crash easily, especially with the new FPV drones. Those are blowing up. They're really fast. And a lot of people who are, switching from, DJI cinematic drones like the Mavics and the Phantoms and the Inspires, are having a hard time with FPV because they're not used to flying. So that's sort of where you see actually, where your skills are at, because they can't fly these things. They're too fast. Their reactions are not, they're not natural, So you have to be able to react really quickly if you're coming to an object, or if you're going to crash. You have to, you can't think so much. It just has to be natural when you're flying.
Right, they don't stop and hold the hover, and they don't have the sensors to stop you from running into the wall, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But with, speaking of FPV, that's another area I wanted to ask about. Is, do you see a lot of, or do you see a trend now? Because before, FPV would be something where, it's kind of like a strange thing. But do you see a lot of like cinema directors and DPs and stuff that are like, hey, can you shoot this FPV, or can we fly this can we have FPV shots like for commercial stuff? Do you see that more now?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of it. It's just adding to the aerial cinematography aspect, mainly for fast-paced environment shooting, like fast cars, race cars, dirt bikes, stuff that's just high adrenaline. So it'll capture it in a way where it's, it films it, in a high space environment, and
Right.
it's not gimbaled, it's not leveled, it's, you get these cool angles,
Right.
which is nice. And it's good to have both.
Yeah. Do you see, are you starting to see more of a demand from your clients for asking for more FPV shots and use?
Yeah, here and there, but I still see a lot of them that like, the norm. they want to use their own cameras like the Alexa Mini or the Red cameras, all right, those cinematic cameras with fancy lenses and all that. You still have those, and then you'll have people that want FPV. It's just it depends on the project, depends on the DP, depends on the director what they want. So we just try to be versatile, so that way we can provide everything. And sometimes we give them both.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you see that? Because being in the industry, especially flying, you were saying flying for years. Have you seen like a trend from directors and DPs and stuff to incorporate more drones? Like, are in a sense, are you working more? Are they asking for more drone footage because now they're starting to embrace it? They're starting to want it more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a small niche too, and there's only a handful of people that are doing it right, and that are constantly working. But there's a ton of people who are consumers, and they can barely fly, and they have their 107s, and they think that they can sort of provide these services, but they're using like the Mavic 2s, and clients, they don't want that stuff.
Right.
That's good for like small projects and stuff, but or if you want to do your own videos and post them on YouTube or blogs or travel videos. They're great for any traveler.
Yeah.
But for I think for professional filmmaking, they're not really ideal.
Right. Well, yeah, you're looking at at least Inspire level and above, but Inspire with like a X7 or something like that, rather than with a
we use those a lot too.
Yeah.
The X7.
And then as you said, the idea of using like an Alexa or a Red on it, like an Alta or something like that. But that you kind of segued into another area of, we'll have a lot of people watching this are probably looking at like, oh, I want to do that, or I want to get into that. What do you think that somebody getting into this business or wanting to get into cinematic filmmaking with drones, what do you think they need to work on, or what skills do they need to develop to be better?
Well, I find a lot of people who want to get into this industry will buy a consumer drone, and these drones, they shoot so well, and they'll do it 90% on their own, that they'll think that they have the skills to be in the industry and become a good drone operator and fly. But when you put them to the test, you ask for these difficult shots, they can't produce. And if it takes 10 takes or 5 takes to get it down to get that one shot, then it would take them a whole day and maybe more to be able to finish this project, because they're not going to be able to produce these shots efficiently. And when you're working with these film shoots, a lot of directors and DPs, they don't spend too much time on the aerials cinematography, because they're always shooting on the ground, and so they'll rely on us to sort of be an aerial DP and create these shots and give them stuff that they've never seen before. But I think the advice is just practice a lot, and I think flying FPV is a good way to really get your skills down and learn how to framing. A lot of people just don't get framing. They think if there's an object in the screen, and they got the shot, you know what I mean? But it's how you frame a shot, and it's how you maneuver the shot, and how you can create movements around it, and just sort of wow your client. So I think a lot of people are very familiar with Part 107, but they're lacking the skills. And then the thing with the 107 is, it doesn't really teach you. It doesn't confirm that they're good enough to fly. It just confirms that they're good with knowing the airspace and the rules and the regulations. But I've seen a lot of them call us, and they have a Mavic 2, and and they want to film, but when you put them to the test, they have a hard time creating these shots that you want. And, you know, I give them simple shots like the directors would always ask me for. Stuff where, you know, you're moving in this direction and you move to another direction, and then trying to nail that, you know, it could be difficult for somebody because, you know, something like that could be easy, but it could be difficult for a lot of people because they're having a hard time nailing that shot. So if they can't nail that shot in 1 or 2 takes, then they still need to practice some more, you know? So I figure, you know, they should work with someone that says, okay, hey, I'm gonna give you a scenario. Let's do a tracking shot, for instance. If let's track this car that's moving. And we want it to go from low to high to reveal, and to see if they can do that, and then give them other maneuvers that they can do from, you know, from the request of a director or a DP or somebody like that, to see if they can come up with these shots. But if they're having a difficult time doing it, then they need more practice. And then they also need to learn how to frame shots too, because framing is something that not everybody has. It's something that it's a talent, I think, that photographers, you know, have, and you know, a lot of drone pilots, they just want to rip and go fast and fly FPV and do the fun stuff like playing a video game. But when you're shooting, when you're doing cinematic stuff, everything's real slow, you know, and so it just all depends on what you're doing. But I think it's best for everyone to practice as much as they can with an FPV drone, and then go practice with a cinematic drone and learn how to fly slow and slow your camera movements, and working out how to frame shots.
Yeah, framing and then keeping the smooth movements. You know, that's always a challenge, I think, with beginning pilots and stuff, because like you said, everybody's really in this fast, quick, jerky kind of a thing. They're just moving around, and they don't realize that, you know, the stick movements, they don't have that feel. They don't have, right. You just have to get that feeling of keeping that subject in focus and keeping that point of reference or point of interest kind of a thing, and keep it smooth and keep the frame properly. See the image, not from the ground, but from the air kind of thing, and visualize that as well. So
yeah, for sure. Another thing I've noticed too with, you know, amateur, you know, operators who are doing, you know, orbits and stuff, you know, when you're doing an orbit, you want to center the object and keep it there as you're orbiting. And a lot of times you're seeing that the object going left on the screen, on the right of the screen, it's being filmed as they're orbiting, but they're not centering the shots throughout the whole movement. And that just doesn't look right. You know, it just looks very amateur, and there's a lot of that.
Right. And the way to get around that is practice. Like you said, just keep practicing, and you'll get that feel, you get that balance on right stick, left stick kind of a thing. And also the idea of piloting rather than letting the drone
Do its own thing.
do everything on its own kind of a thing.
Yeah, it takes years, you know, it takes years to develop these skills. It's not overnight. And, you know, I give it more than, you know, a couple years, you know, I just know this because when you fly, like a lot of people who are not experienced are thinking too much of the movement. But when you're armed and when your fingers are used to all these movements and knowing how to, you know, tilt the camera or pan the camera at the same time without thinking, then you're actually creating, versus trying to make these moves work and create the shot. Because if they're thinking too much, that means that they're not experienced, you know.
And if they're not experiencing it, then they're not seeing what the audience is going to see, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're more stuck on the mechanical, the technical aspect of it, and they lose sight of the overall experience and what the audience will ultimately see, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot, you know, that goes into it, especially like, for instance, turning off the obstacle avoidance. You know, if you're doing something in close proximity to objects, or you're flying through a window, and, you know, turn all that stuff off. Turn your GPS off. fly in ATT mode. It's a lot more, it's a lot more smooth. Um, but stuff like that, just ruins things because it stops.
Right. All of a sudden for no reason, yeah, at least from the audience perspective, why did it stop? Yeah. Uh, yeah, no, for sure. And again, beginning pilots getting involved, turning everything off is, you got to get comfortable with that too. The idea that I'm a good enough pilot that I can fly without that stuff. Once you get to that level, then good, then you're okay. Now practice and hold those shots and frame the shots properly and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's so many different aspects to this technology as far as the business goes. You have um, stuff where you're doing construction work. I don't necessarily like doing construction work or mapping or surveying. It's not my cup of tea, but we've done it, and we've done a lot of it, and but that's a whole nother aspect too. And then you need to learn how to program these things to fly autonomously to where you get all the all the data that they're asking, because they're very specific, especially with like lidar and mapping and 3D mapping and all that stuff. And
yeah.
there's just so much. There's a lot of cool things you can do. 360 cameras, you know.
That's something that, let me jump in there. I want to ask you something now that you mentioned that, because my last question was, where do you see this going? Where do you see aerial cinematography going? But before we jump on that, maybe you can segue into that. But are you getting a lot of call for like 360, like immersive shooting yet, or not yet? Or
Yeah, we have a lot of it is stuff that's like we can't really talk about because it's like we worked with different companies in LA, like for instance, like the Metro,
yeah,
stuff with them.
Right.
But we can't expose any of that stuff because this is all internal.
Right.
It's for internal use.
Right.
But it's great, and I enjoy doing it, and it's a whole different thing, and you have to know how to with the 360 stuff, you have to be able to not show that there's a drone visible in the shot, and there's certain ways to do that because most of the time the drones are in the shot.
Yeah, well, because you look around, oh, there's the drones, kind of.
Right. Because they want data for their internal use, and it's better to give it to them without any of that stuff on there.
Yeah, they want that real experience. Now, like I said, the last question, I guess, is where do you see this going? Where do you see aerial cinematography and aerial film production going in the future?
Well, right now it's at its the technology has advanced so much that it's now shifting, and it's we're just adding to the aerial cinematography aspect, like FPV. That's an add-on. Aerial lighting, that's an add-on. Anything that you can use these drones for. Let's say for the fire department, you can carry a hose and squirt some water on the 6th floor of a building and help them put out a fire without having, because it's really quickly you can get up there. So I just think that this technology is just going to add a lot more services to what people's needs are, as far as what these things can do.
Yeah, and it sounds cliche, but the sky's the limit. But yeah, it keeps growing.
And I also think that there's going to be drones for people to actually be on them, and to fly in them.
Yeah.
Where you're actually putting your life into risk and getting yourself in the air. Like there's these guys who are using them as like, they're standing on them, kind of like skateboards, surfboards, and they're flying in the air, which is amazing. You know what I mean? But any kind of malfunction, that's why you see them flying over the water, because if something happens,
go in the water,
yeah, they'll go in the water. But yeah, I think the technology with these things are going to advance so much that whatever you can think of, they're going to use it for. If you want to use it for transportation, I have a feeling that pretty soon that they're going to use them for deliveries. For Amazon, they're coming up with a new remote pilot ID so they can expand, you know, the skies for more use of drones. Using them for medical use, people in remote areas, dropping off, you know, medical supplies for people. I think that's a great, you know, there's a company doing that and they're doing really well.
Yeah. Yeah. There's it's just really wide open as far as the opportunities go.
Yeah, you
Well,
really have to find your niche.
yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, you know, whether it's photography, cinematography, or whether it's mapping and surveying with construction sites, or whether it's package delivery or fire departments, or, you know, you got to find your thing.
Yeah, you got to find your, if it's FPV, that's fine. That's, you know, go there. I know photographers who use these for just doing aerial photography, and you know, they have their photography clients from it, so they use it for that. And so I just feel like if you have, if you're passionate about something, find your niche there.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and then just practice. Keep practicing.
Yeah, keep practicing and enjoy, because that's what this is all about. You know, this was a hobby for me in the beginning. It was my lifestyle. It still is my lifestyle when I'm not working on projects. I'm out there flying anyway. I have an FPV wing, a little camera with goggles. You know, I'll hit up some slopes or some cliffs or find some new locations. It's a great lifestyle. It really is.
Yeah, definitely fun. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but JJ, so thanks for joining us, and
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
sharing this information. All right.
Sounds good.